Our next guest is Royal Editor for the Daily Mirror, Russell Myers. Great to have you with us on this Sunday. Now, Russell, there was so much fanfare around the launch of the Sussex's not-for-profit Archewell, but it doesn't seem to have been the focus of their efforts recently, has it?
No, good evening. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, every time that Harry and Meghan pop up, whether it's sort of legal cases or talk about their charity, everybody is talking about it. But this recent revelation that they've only done 1 hour a week each for work for their charity Archewell has sort of raised eyebrows. But I think it sort of, once you scratch the surface of this story, it is very, very interesting because Harry and Meghan are obviously a huge force throughout the world. They've managed to pull in an incredible over $10 million for this charity, despite only working on it part-time, it would seem. And I think once they do get the sort of legal cases that they're fighting across the board or out of the way, they're going to be quite a tour de force because they've been talking about community engagement, talking about the differences they want to make. Obviously, that is levelled with all their other activities going on, fighting media cases and whatnot. But once that is out of the way, it should be clear that these two really do have something to offer, and I think they can really capitalise on their celebrity and try and make a difference in the communities they're helping out.
Yeah, and that would be interesting to see if that does happen post these legal cases because, you know, so far it doesn't seem to have attracted that much interest from donors, or they haven't really given much in the way of grants. Look, it'll be interesting to see whether it does become a serious charity or whether it's just part of their positioning and their narrative.
Yeah, I think that's an argument, isn't it? But I mean, it's in its infancy, really. This charity, and the issue is for Harry and Meghan that there's been an awful lot of noise surrounding them. We've had the Netflix series on the back of the Oprah Winfrey interview. We've had Harry's obviously his memoir Spare has gone down quite badly at the palace, and all the noise surrounding that as well. So whether they were able to sort of get away from this once we've had the coronation, we still obviously don't know whether they're going to attend that, but that should be an opportunity for them to just really sort of put this work to good use. But you're right. I don't think we've seen too much of what they're about at the moment, and hopefully that will happen in the future.
Yeah, and look, to be fair, I actually really hope it does. You know, they do have so much name recognition. They do have so much of that celebrity status. You really would like to see it go to like a proper practical purpose. Now, on to the next topic. It's been reported this weekend that President Joe Biden won't be attending the coronation. He has been invited, and he did go to the Queen's funeral, although he didn't exactly have courtside seats. What do you think is behind this decision?
Well, I think it's double-edged, actually. This has been knocking around for a few weeks, whether Biden would attend. I mean, King Charles is going to sort of break the mould, as it were, inviting foreign leaders, kings and queens from foreign nations to the coronation, which is quite different to what's happened before. Of course, Eisenhower, the US president at the time of Queen Victoria II's coronation, didn't attend. And Biden is actually in Europe. He's talking about Northern Ireland in the next few weeks. He is 80 years old, of course. I think the US authorities that deal with his diary really do need to look after him. I mean, it's a punishing schedule he has at the very least. However, on the flip side, Biden is staunchly proud of his US roots, his Irish roots, his Irish American roots. And so I didn't think it was a real possibility that he would come. Whether he will send a special invite or his wife, Jill Biden, remains to be seen. But I suppose a blow for the organisers of the coronation.
Yeah, it is a bit of a blow. And I wonder, you know, I'd be interested in your view. Do you think that it's more so a reflection on the British Crown or on the US president and the presidency?
No, I think the latter. I think that it's a reflection on him. As I said, he's fiercely proud of his Irish roots. Whether he believes that would be a deflection of what he's said in the past, it's a very different situation coming to the Queen's funeral. That's, of course, a mark of deep respect of the Americans' relationship with Britain throughout her 70-year reign. And again, I think his schedule really plays a big part in it. I mean, 80 years old, coming twice over to the Atlantic in a short space of a couple of weeks probably isn't what his diarists want for him.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, look, on to Prince Harry. Last week on the show, I spoke about Prince Harry's admission to taking recreational drugs and how that could have some implications for his US visa. This week, there are calls for the Prince to reveal how he answered that question on his visa application. Now, look, taking recreational drugs is one thing, but allegations of potentially providing misleading information to a federal agency is quite another. Where do you think this lands?
Well, of course, those admissions of drug taking, multiple drugs that we saw in his interviews, promotional interviews for his book Spare, have really got people talking and wondering whether Harry would be pulled up on it by US authorities. I mean, anyone who's been to the United States knows about the form filling, the visa applications are very, very an integral part to you actually getting into the country. So whether Harry would be pulled up on authorities is an interesting point. I mean, whether he's lied on them, we don't know what he did fill in on those forms, but it could be a position that he might need to consider, because it's happened to the famous chef Nigella Lawson. She was stopped from going over to the US after admitted taking cocaine in the past. So I think this is something we'll have to sort of watch and wait and see if the US authorities do get involved.
But more broadly, isn't it sometimes just better to say less? Like, I know we're in the business of media, so we obviously want people to say things so we've got things to talk about. But, I often wonder and I often ask myself, who is advising the Sussexes, and can they see sometimes how poorly they come off, or how sometimes what they say actually just gets them into more difficulty than it needs to?
Well, I think you look at the polls of Harry and Meghan's popularity, certainly in the UK and the US, it's fallen quite considerably. I mean, Harry was the absolute darling of the royal family for so many years, hugely respected. And I think this constant talking that they've done, whether it's the Oprah Winfrey interview, Netflix, and Harry's book, has really shown them in a different light. I mean, we bring it back to the charity work that they have said that they're concentrated on doing. I think realistically, they need to capitalise on their great fame in order to try and change the narrative, because people have fallen out of love with them a little bit. I think people need to see them rolling their sleeves up, doing the charity work that they said, and trying to forget all the noise that surrounds them sometimes. But it's easier said than done, isn't it?
That's true. But on that, we see that Meghan has brought in Michelle Obama's press secretary. Can you fill us in with what's going on here?
Well, again, I mean, you talk about star power. This is a story that Meghan Markle had been paying Michelle Obama's ex-press secretary for advice, and it gives you some indication about whether she will have political ambitions herself. I mean, that's often been rumoured, whether she saw herself entering the political fray. Again, we talk about their two star power. Love them or loathe them, they are very, very popular, and everybody talks about them. So again, when you talk about Harry and Meghan, you talk about the fact that they're globally recognised, the fact that they can do an awful lot in the charity sphere if we get across the noise that we've had over the last couple of years, especially. And does Meghan see herself entering US politics? I mean, it's a big, big question. Some people have said it's frankly ridiculous, but I wouldn't bet against her on this point.
No, but it doesn't necessarily mean her entering politics. Maybe it's just a change of tact. Maybe it's just maybe they want to do things differently going forward. Is that equally a possibility?
Well, definitely. I mean, they've had an awful lot of turnover from their staff, which again raises questions about what direction they're going in. And again, we don't think we can even say with certainty what direction that is. We talk about Archewell; it's still in its infancy. They've got an awful lot of strings to that bow. We've got the podcasting, we've got the Netflix series. I actually think we'll see another Netflix series of Harry and Meghan. I don't think we'll see just the one. We'll turn over what Harry and Meghan did next, potentially. But again, these political ambitions, I don't think it's all ridiculous. And I think that when you're talking about Harry and Meghan, there's definitely a lot more for them to offer.
Yeah, great insights. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Russell. That's all we've got time for. We look forward to having you on the show again. Have a good evening.